Hello, welcome back to the bookshelf, or welcome if you're new. How you doing? How's the wife? How's the kids? How's the husband? I'm Grace, and today we are going to be doing something that I have not done yet on this channel. Kind of controversial, kind of been avoiding it, but today is the day, because I'm feeling a little snarky, a little sarcastic, kind of like I want to make some people mad. So we are going to be doing 2 book reviews because I haven't actually done any book reviews yet. Like, what's wrong with me? Am I even a YouTuber anymore? I was looking at my channel and I was like, I haven't done any book reviews yet. 2 books that are very beloved by people, especially in the BookTok community. And I figured, let's discuss it. Let's do a book review for Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi and Begin Again by Emma Lord, popular, college romance book. Let's see what the thoughts were. So, Before the Coffee Gets Cold is a very popular translated fiction work. I saw it all over people's TikTok pages. They loved it. They did reviews of it. It was very popular among adults, teenagers, people of different demographics, everyone. Like, I'm not kidding. Everyone loved this book. And I, naturally, being someone of firm opinion and little money, was like, 1 book. This I can afford. We shall buy it. We shall rank it, review it, hold it up against the greats. Because what am I, if not someone who loves controversial opinions and hot takes and disappointing people by not quite enjoying the zeitgeist, not quite getting it, completely missing the mark. I cannot count the number of times that I've read a book and publicly said, I don't really like it, guys. I don't get the magic. I don't get the point. And then everyone's like, you missed the point. You missed the whole storyline and the moon and the corners and the nooks and the crannies of the story. I'm like, well, not my fault, Deborah. I just didn't understand it. And this book, I tried to avoid that because there's a lot of meat in here. There's a lot of stories in here because it's about different characters. It is about different storylines, all to do with a cafe. And unfortunately, as you can see on the back, there are different books in the series. I have not read all of them because I didn't fully enjoy this one enough to want the full collection. But I will keep it because, also, I am so sorry if you hear me like belching slightly. I went book shopping today, and they naturally had a snack counter that I could not stay away from. And they had this triple chocolate muffin that just looked precious. So I got it, and it did not settle well. The food did not mesh with the system. So, you will be hearing comments from the chocolate. Back to Before the Coffee Gets Cold. It takes place, all these stories, within a central cafe in, where was that? Tokyo. A small back alley of Tokyo. And I really liked the beginning. The beginning was super strong. It established the fantasy elements of the story. It talked about the different characters and the employees and everything. And I really appreciated that. It had fantastic world building. And I really liked the idea of that. I wanted to learn more. However, the characters I felt were sort of, ooh, got a swingy chair. The characters I felt were sort of, I don't want to say underdeveloped, but they lacked a certain 3-dimensional detail that really would have cemented the story for me. Because I didn't mind the story. I read the whole book. Like, I clearly was invested enough to read this much of plot. And maybe it was because there are different characters that aren't related to each other. Like, I like dual POV stories. It's just when they're not related to each other, I tend to fall off the bandwagon a little bit. Like if it's, different characters that are in the same book club, or, if it's like different family members and it's dual POV, like I like that. I don't mind that. I can get behind that. But it's just when they're not related to each other, I tend to not enjoy the story as much because I'm not seeing a clear, like through line between the characters. I also feel like a big podcast host when I have this microphone. I am very fervent with this microphone, specifically. Also, if any of you like ASMR, just a little bit of book ASMR for you, a little bit of like, I don't know if that does anything for you. Hopefully it does. I don't know. But just to read you the back, what the people's thoughts were. So the Sydney Morning Herald said, and yes, I will be doing a different voice for every review. The Sydney Morning Herald said, "This is a sweet fable-like tale about a magical seat in a cafe, where you can, if you wish, go back in time. An odd read, but also a charming one." I appreciate that. The Griffin said, "Story about human relationships, missed opportunities, and the enduring power of love." The Palatinate, very strange word, the Palatinate said, "Thought-provoking, and at times tear-jerking realization about what we would say if we could go back in time." The Books and Bow said, "It is full of soul, presented through clever world-building and unfolding of its characters and relationships." Everybody seemed to like it. Seemed to be a big emphasis on emotional development, which I appreciate. I do not like soulless books. I do not like El Kennedy, which is a separate video entirely. I do not like El Kennedy, personally. Some people really do. Some people swear by her as their favorite author, and you know what? More power to you, but it ain't my power. It ain't my power you're using, because I can't stand it. But, before the coffee gets cold, the first story, I liked. Second story, didn't like so much. The third story, didn't really like at all. Fourth story, was decent, from what I recall. Have not read Tales from the Cafe, Before Your Memory Fades, or Before We Say Goodbye. I do remember there was one story about, in this book specifically, where it was a couple, one of them had Alzheimer's. I do remember that. Now, I read this book 2 years ago, so I'm sort of coming at this from a perspective of having book Alzheimer's, where my memories are fading from this book. I don't remember it super well. Which unfortunately means that the story did not resonate with me a lot. Now, to review the tone of the book. The tone was solid. Tone I appreciated. Tone was great. But the characterization lost me slightly. Now, it could be because I was not maybe the target audience for this book, maybe my brain, maybe my frontal lobe is not developed enough. Maybe the macaroni isn't cooked enough to grasp this. That may very well be. Listen. I barely passed college calculus, so there is a high percentage that some of this plot line just went right over the macaroni. That might have happened. I don't know. Which is why I'm depending on you guys in the comments to tell me if I missed anything critical, or if I'm spot on. I don't know. Reading is subjective. But that's part of the beauty of kind of harping on a book a little bit, is that you can say your opinions, respectfully so, may or may not be objectively true, I don't know. But that's part of the beauty of it. So this book, overall, I would say 3.7 out of 5 stars. 3.7. I think, it's pretty generous. Pretty solid. I don't hate the book. Would I read it again? Maybe. Maybe if, I had to take this with me somewhere, and I was waiting for a long time, and I didn't want to be on my phone. This might be a good book, if you're feeling like you want a little bit of intellectual stimulation, you're not looking for a lot of vibes. Like, this is not a, no plot, just vibes book. This is like a some vibes, lot of plot book, which is fine. That's what you're into. You know what? So, 3.7 stars. Good for you. Now, very exciting. The next book. The next book is Begin Again by Emma Lord, who is a recent author that I discovered. Both of these actually are recent authors that I hadn't discovered. And it's a college, like YA, new adult, young adult romance. And the two main characters are in college. The girl is a freshman, and then the boy is her RA on her floor. And it's, I don't want to say Grumpy Sunshine because that gives me Tessa Bailey flashbacks, if you know what I mean. But because honestly, tangent. What is up with the cartoony covers, you guys? Like, I'm upset and I'm traumatized, and I will be suing. I will be hiring a lawyer because what is up with these cartoony covers? Okay? If you're trying to avoid me because you like them, I'm looking. I'm following you, okay? What is up with these cartoony covers, you guys? A 10-year-old would be picking up, a hockey smut book, a Colleen Hoover, L. Kennedy, whatever, and reading about the stuff. So, why the cartoony covers again? Like, why? It really misleads the content of the book, whether it has spice or not. And I really have to take a gamble of like, does it have spice? Does it not have spice? Am I going to regret this later? I don't know. Because if I'm chocolate had opinions. If I'm being completely honest, I don't love the smoosh. The smoosh, it's not my friend. I remember I went to Target once, right? And I was looking in the aisle. I was looking in the aisle and I saw It Ends With Us, movie had just come out. I was like, oh, maybe I want to read the book, let's check it out. Innocently opened up to a page. The page had some stuff. The page had very graphic descriptions of something. Yeah, and I just was like, whoop. Now, simultaneously, I think this was a sign. I think this was a divine signal from somewhere. And because my mom went to Target. And my mom went to Target around the same time, maybe a week later, and she also looked in the book section. She was like, oh, maybe I want something new to read. It's getting close to summer. Maybe I want something, fun. And she went to the book section. She saw It Ends With Us. She remembered going to the movie with me. We both liked it. And picking up the book, being like, oh, I'll just flip to a random page. Maybe I want to read the book. And picked it up, flipped to a random page, and what should she behold? But the smoosh. And listen, I'm not talking like closed door. I'm talking like open door, open windows, skylight, you called CNN, tripod filming, like everything. It was horrifying. And listen, if that's your jam, you know what? At the end of the day, I'm not here to judge what you read. Maybe you skip over it. Maybe you like the other parts. I don't know. I'm just saying I was not expecting that level because I've never read that level of stuff before. So, what was my original point? I don't remember what my point was. But anyway, what I'm saying is I have been on the hunt for books that don't have a lot of stuff, but are still, like they have chemistry, like you can tell there's banter. Because what I don't like is when a book has not just one, the stuff, smoosh scene or whatever. I don't mind that personally, like if it it just like sort of end of chapter, and then next chapter different day. I'm fine with that. That's fine. But what I don't like is when a book has that tone, like where it could happen at any point throughout the whole book, where you're sort of just like on the edge of your seat, like, oh, is it this part or a different part? Like, I don't like that, where, I like it where, there's a certain point about 3/4 of the way through the book where you know what's going to happen, it's dependable, and you can skip over it if you don't like it, you can read it if whatever, and then you're done. Next chapter. I don't like it where there's just this, like, brimming, slightly objectifying, constant smoosh tone throughout the whole book. Which, listen, I'm not calling out Emily Henry's new book, but I'm not calling out Emily Henry's new book. I've seen it at Barnes & Noble, and I repeatedly have been like, I read you in the fantasy section. I skipped a random page, and look what you did to me. But back to this book. This book, if you like, intense chemistry, it has that. If you don't like spice, this might not be the book for you. If you like spice, this is the book for you. If you like spice, this is not the book for you. If you don't like spice, this is the book for you. Because it doesn't have, like, scenes like that. But it does have chemistry between the characters, which I think is really important. It's important if you know going in, I don't want to write a book with XYZ. I think it's important to write the rest of the book reflecting that, where there's still a lot of development in other ways, where there's things that readers can appreciate through, other pathways in the story. It's important to keep that through line. So, Begin Again by Emma Lord. Tone, loved it. First 50 pages were a bit, slow going, but it also was setting up the world building. And something that I like is when romance books, particularly young adult, is when it takes time in the beginning to set up the world, set up the side characters, parents, siblings, friends, whatever, classes, everything else, and they don't directly, like 20 pages in, she's having, like, intense flirtation with the love interest. You can. I read books like that, and they're not bad, but I appreciate a little bit of time where we get to know the main character as an individual and not just a member of a pair, I feel like that's important. And this book has that. The first 50 pages, I remember reading this, I had just come off of another romance book where it was very, like, sudden and immediate. They meet and there's tension, sparks, whatever. And then this book, it waited a bit. I was like, okay, I can get into this. This is pretty nice. I would say the romance takes a while to build. So if that's not quite your jam, if you like something right away, with your jam and your jelly, maybe not this book. Or, maybe skim a little bit and then read more, deeply later on. Whatever is your jam. Because I've heard of people doing that, and they get a lot of judgment on TikTok for doing that. I personally think, at the end of the day, however you want to read, that's how you should read. If you want to annotate, not annotate. If you like books with small print, big print, if you still like illustrations in books, like, there's nothing wrong with that. However you want to read, you read. That's part of the beauty of it, is that you get to decide what you want to read, and nobody can judge you for it, because you know what? You're an adult. Or not an adult, but you're a person. You have your own free will, your own bookshelves, you can decorate them however you want. You can buy cute little knickknacks and shelf decorations, even if other people don't want those. It's part of the beauty of it. And if you want to read books with no spice, you can. If you want to read books with spice, you can too. And this book in particular is a cute little college romance. I see a lot of books, like Elle Kennedy tends to write books about college where I think this is funny when authors emphasize, like, hey, if they're 18, it's legal. They're 18. They can, they're 18. They're adults legally. And I feel like if you have to add legally onto your justification, is it really? Should you really be doing that? Your college romance basically depends on that. That's not really that great, but it's not very solid. But this book, it sort of uses college as a way to not emphasize legal age, but to emphasize independence from family. You're making your own decisions. Not all of those decisions are going to be good, but they're yours. And you can meet someone in different ways than you could in high school. Like, something that's very honest about college romances, particularly Begin Again, is that a lot of high school romance, and even in real life high school, you're stuck with the same people, and you're all kind of immature, you're 15, 16, and, you're stuck with the same people for 4 years. Some of them you like, some of them you don't like, but you see them every day, your class, you work with them on projects, and you can't escape them, because I've tried. You can't, they find you. But in college, you have more of an opportunity to meet different people every day, depending on what size college you go to, and what campus and whatever. But you have a bigger chance to meet people, and there's different clubs and opportunities, and you're treated more as an adult, as long as you're not like showing up smoking weed in the back of your class. not that I've seen people do that, but I have. But you're treated more as an adult. And that's what makes college romance a better setting sometimes than just high school romance. Not that there's anything wrong with high school romance, but college romance, I think, lends a better story to, more complex storylines sometimes, more, new adult angst, that kind of thing. And this book in particular, I honestly felt a kinship to the author right away, because it is called Begin Again, which, if you're Swiftie, first of all, hello, but if you're Swiftie, Begin Again is a song of Taylor Swift's. And if you're not a Swiftie, listen, I'm not saying we need to have a conversation, but I just want to know your reasons. Because, it's fine if you have them, but, it's fun over here. Okay? Join the camp, join the club. You're missing out. I mean, you will lose wall space and a lot of cash, but, it's worth it. So, Begin Again is a Taylor Swift song title. And I've seen a lot of authors doing that. I've made some TikToks and reels about it, but I've seen a lot of romance authors in particular use Taylor Swift song titles as their book titles, as a, sort of like recognition, like Swifties would see it, or Taylor Swift fans would be like, oh, I know that's a song title, and then maybe be more likely to buy the book, which is honestly a genius, marketing tactic to use for your book, to be like, hey, let's name this after something popular that's, we can legally use, and then people will be more likely to buy it if they're a fan of this immensely popular thing. It's a genius idea. It's not a grumpy sunshine. Yes, that was my tangent. I got off track before the train kind of got derouted, but we're back on the proper tracks. So, no, now I'm off the tracks again. So, it's not a grumpy sunshine romance, directly. But the main dude character, and what's his name? Milo. If it's Milo, I don't care. I'm pronouncing it Milo. I think that when you write a book, you have to give up certain rights, which are that your readers will pronounce the characters how they want to. Okay? Might be, Violet, might be Violet. Could be Milo, whatever. But you know what? They have a right, because they bought the book, they love the characters as much as you. They care about the storylines, they should be able to pronounce it however they want. So Milo is the dude, and he has a complicated relationship with his brother's new girlfriend. That's a storyline that I don't want to spoil. And also his mother and his father. And the girl also has her own problems, but they're more related to her, inspirations and hobbies and that sort of thing. And so they bond over feeling a bit lost, a bit uncertain compared to their peers who really know where they want to go in life. And I really appreciate that about the book, because they bond emotionally, and not just like, hey, you're fun and you want to do stuff in the bathroom, not just that, but they bond emotionally, and I appreciate that. And I would give this book about 4.8 out of 5 stars, and I'm only deducting the 0.2 because the first 50 pages were a bit slow. I feel like the world building could have been, a bit more exciting. But, maybe that's just because I'm Gen Z and I have the attention span of a goldfish. I don't know. So those were the 2 reviews, Before the Coffee Gets Cold and Begin Again. If you like the books, let me know. If you don't like the books, let me know, because I honestly am open to opinions. I'm open to discussion. We're making this a panel, okay? We're making this a panel. Everybody's going to go around and share fun facts about themselves. Don't, though, because that's deeply traumatizing. Whenever anyone says share fun facts about yourself, I just get flashbacks to first grade and it's horrifying. So thank you so much for watching, and thank you for coming back to the bookshelf and chatting with me. This has been very controversial. There have been some hot takes, Gordon Ramsay style, hot and sizzling and a lot of controversial opinions. But we have some romance, we have some, translated commercial fiction. And if you like it, if you don't like it, comment below. And I'm on all the socials. My links are in the description and also in my bio. I'm on TikTok. And definitely follow me on TikTok. It's fun. It's casual. And I just got Lemonade, actually, yesterday. So if you want casual, outfits of the day and weird random stuff that I just figure out in 5 minutes and post it randomly, join me. What are you doing? And that is also connected to my TikTok. So go on my TikTok, follow me on the other socials, and we can have more hot takes together and figure out what's going on. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.